Hello and welcome to United Report. This is your home for all the latest Manchester United news, match updates, transfer stories, and in-depth analysis. Stay connected and never miss a moment. Subscribe now to stay ahead with everything happening at Old Trafford. Antony often left his Manchester United colleagues red-faced during training sessions due to his dazzling skills, according to former Red Devils coach Benny McCarthy. The ex-Blackburn Rovers striker joined the Premier League giants as an assistant to Erik Ten Hag at the same time Antony arrived, after he was signed from Ajax for a whopping £85 million in the summer of 2022. Despite the hefty price tag, the 25-year-old has failed to impress during his stint in Manchester and was recently loaned out to Real Betis. With his long-term future at Old Trafford hanging in the balance, McCarthy, who stepped down as a first-team coach last summer, expressed his disappointment over how Antony's career at United has unfolded, given his immense talent he has demonstrated behind closed doors. Antony has nice ways about him. He trains well. He'll really listen to his coaches because he's willing to learn, the former Champions League winner told ESPN. When a concept clicks with him, it really clicks. He has skills in abundance, and unlike most players of his ability, he's always willing to get back and help his defender, or to press and rob the ball. Antony's fiery temperament on the pitch was evident when he received a straight red card that has since been overturned on appeal. For Betis, following their 2-1 win over Getafe on Sunday, which didn't surprise McCarthy considering Antony's background. I recognise his personality because he was born in a favela, and I grew up playing with gangsters in the opposition team or on the touchline, the ex-Premier League goalscorer said. He's got a good nasty streak in him. If you kick him, then be prepared to be kicked back. The 47-year-old expressed his surprise at Antony's initial struggles under Ten Hag and Ruben Amorim, recalling how the Brazilian used to dazzle his teammates in training. He added via the Manchester Evening News, "But I loved watching him in training, taking the mickey out of other players with the ball. He has so much dazzling ability that I was hugely disappointed that, simply because he was young, there were too many expectations and there's no time to settle in at United. It looked like he wasn't going to make it. Now he's showing people his real level. He's gifted." Despite his initial disappointment, McCarthy is thrilled to see Antony thriving at Betis, where he has scored 3 goals and provided 2 assists in his first 5 appearances. This is a significant improvement from his time at United, where he managed just 1 goal in 14 appearances across all competitions before his temporary departure in January. Patience with Rasmus Hojlund is running out at Manchester United, both internally and externally. The striker has now gone 16 matches without scoring, and with just 2 Premier League goals to his name since the season began, serious doubts about his ability and his Old Trafford future have emerged. Faith in him within the United camp is dwindling rapidly, with one coach offering a scathing assessment of the 22-year-old's performance against Tottenham 10 days ago. His recent struggles suggest that Roy Keane's initial concerns about him were on the money. Little over a year ago, the former Manchester United skipper, 53, lambasted Hojlund for not being clinical enough and lacking a real desire to get on the score sheet. "I'd be fuming with him if I was manager," Keane insisted after the £72 million Denmark international failed to score against League One side Wigan in the FA Cup back in January 2024, squandering several clear-cut chances. "He wasn't clinical, he's missing his chances. We can say unlucky, oh dear, but he has to create opportunities for himself and put them in the back of the net. Stop messing about." A few days later, the Irishman tore into Hojlund again. He's been allowed some time now to bed himself into the club, into English football, but now we're talking about Manchester United. You have to have that real desire to score goals. These players just don't have the desire to score, and Hojlund has not shown it. There have been players that have come to Man United, and we've spoken about how unlucky they are, but you can't keep waiting. Hojlund reacted to Keane's criticism in the best possible way, scoring 7 goals in his next 6 games. However, his struggles in the 12 months since have largely undone the momentum he built during that purple patch. Shortly after arriving, Ruben Amorim insisted Hojlund was an important cog in his side, but urged the striker to improve his efficiency in possession. "I think he has to improve more because sometimes he gives too many touches when he holds the ball," the United head coach said in November. It's very important for us because when we are in a low block, he is the guy to hold the ball and connect for transitions. He did that very well. He has those characteristics. He is aggressive in the box. He is a quality player, but he has a lot to improve. Hojlund joined United from Atalanta in 2023 in a deal worth an initial £64 million, which could rise to a whopping £72 million with add-ons. He arrived with just 18 league goals under his belt, a tally that he's since increased to 30. Continued interest in forwards like Victor Gyökeres, Victor Osimhen, Liam Delap and Jonathan David suggests the Red Devils are already planning for a future without Hojlund, who has failed to justify his price tag, while summer recruit Joshua Zirkzee has hardly helped lift the burden in front of goal either. The Dane potentially only has a few months left to prove himself at Old Trafford, but based on recent evidence, a turnaround seems unlikely. The Manchester United figure said to a colleague at half-time at Goodison Park, "There is little warmth about their club amid the callous cost-cutting initiated by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe is more than a year in at United, and his tenure as co-owner has been marked by an FA Cup triumph, United's sweetest in the competition since 1996. But it is an era hitherto renowned for penny pinching, a manager's sacking, and the worst United team in 51 years. Ratcliffe had become accustomed to United fans approaching him for selfies. He enters Old Trafford via the Stretford End tunnel, walks along the Sir Bobby Charlton stand and up the gangway towards the director's lounge. He always receives requests for pictures and always obliges. There is an undeniable dichotomy at United. There's no Ineos and United. It's just United, a club source said earlier this season. There's Ineos, and then there's United, another club source said more recently. Ratcliffe attended another fans' advisory board meeting at Carrington recently. Consultation is already underway between the fan representatives and the club on ticket prices and policies for next season. FAB members have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. The United chief executive Omar Barada sent an email last week to warn staff that leaking sensitive information could be regarded as gross misconduct. That missive was then leaked. Others were appalled that the news surfaced on the same day of Denis Law's funeral at Manchester Cathedral, which was coordinated by two former United employees who left the club last year. They had also overseen the funeral of long-serving United receptionist Kath Phipps at the Cathedral in January. Ratcliffe was not in attendance for either. Morale at United has been on the floor for the best part of a year. United laid off 250 staff last summer after the workforce was allowed to balloon to 1,112. Some had titles that effectively fixed a target on their back, and Ratcliffe pulled the trigger. On pre-season tours, we see some United employees that we never see again until the next tour 12 months later. One employee had their suitcase packed for the tour in anticipation of flying to Los Angeles. Then they were told they would not be going as they were at risk. Others on the tour were informed midway through that they could be at risk, having previously been assured their jobs were safe. Bruno Fernandes, Eric Cantona and Juan Mata reached out to staff at United who were about to leave. Sir Alex Ferguson commiserated with a former staff member, and Victor Lindelof sat with another on the train back from London after the Community Shield. A couple who worked at the club got married last year and both lost their jobs. Erik ten Hag re-entered the Carrington press room after a press conference in September to give a speech for the emotional departing press officer John Allen. "I know you as a very good colleague," Ten Hag said. "I'm very happy with the support you gave me, how we worked together. I wish you all the best with what's coming, and something great will come for you, I'm sure, because you are so competent. And I wish you all the best, of course, for your work and for your family." Ten Hag took Allen and existing members of the press office out for a last supper. Departments are as depleted as the United attack. A member of the controlled solutions group security firm United work with had to jump onto the front desk of the media entrance to hand out accreditation amid a staff shortage. Upstairs later that evening, the gentleman who ensures the press lounge buffet is replenished had to muck in and hand out team sheets. There are only two dedicated press officers with the first team. Toby Craig, the chief communications officer formerly of Manchester City and Chelsea, watches games from the director's box. Craig was another City alumni recruit recommended by Barada. United staff checked in with friends at City when Barada defected and were encouraged. He had a great reputation at City, a United source said. Now, he's out of his depth. In January last year, Ratcliffe held an all-staff meeting that one source described as amazing. They get it, another enthused club employee said. United staff anticipated exciting times until reality dawned on them. Former employees are bound to be embittered, but it is a struggle to find anyone at United with a kind word to say about Ratcliffe now. In a briefing with dedicated correspondents in the Old Trafford boardroom on September 1st, Barada admitted there would be mistakes. Those on Ratcliffe's watch have been so glaring and so avoidable. The cost of sacking Ten Hag and the short-lived sporting director Dan Ashworth was £14.5 million, a sum that undermines the penny pinching at lower levels. United's summer was one of compromise. Signings for Ineos Lenny Yoro and Manuel Ugarte, signings for Ten Hag Matthijs de Ligt and Noussair Mazraoui,